enjoying this summer so far?
Oh, it's good. Yeah, we're just getting rolling here at the National Series. So, second round, and we made improvements, pretty significant improvements from the first round. So,
what's the transition been like, even from your role, what you do day to day? I mean, is it compared to going from the Kawasaki team over here with the Yamaha boys? Do you have the same level of involvement always with Eli? Have you noticed a difference on how they even work with you and your feedback and opinion?
Well, with Eli, it's basically the same.
Yeah.
With the team, it's a little bit different. So it's just our system over here is a little more, I'd say, open to different ideas, and settings, and things like that.
How, from that sense, just him coming to this platform and being, you guys were on the Kawi for so long, coming to the Yamaha, how much of it do you feel like watching him, did it naturally suit him, versus have you guys had to try for some bigger items along the way to kind of make it work for him? Or
well,
actually,
that's the thing. I mean, with a lot of these bikes, it really doesn't necessarily matter on which brand you're on, other than the Austrian bikes are steel framed.
Yep.
The thing has to be set up for the rider and what the rider wants, what the rider's comfortable on. So that should be the goal of every program, right? To get the rider in the best spot you can get him, so he feels the most comfortable.
From your perspective, coming over here, what would you say, attribute-wise, with the bike they had when you guys got there? What about it suited Eli the best, and what was it that you guys maybe worked on the most?
Worked on the most, I wouldn't say any one thing sticks out. There's always the biggest challenge for the most part with 450s is chassis settings and getting those correct, because they make a lot of power. So really you have to be able to control that motorcycle and put it where you want it and be comfortable on it and be able to go as fast as that motor will take you. The motor settings are kind of rider preference in a way. The clutches are, for Eli, the clutch is very important because he uses it as a tool, as a riding tool, as a control for the bike. You know, and a lot of riders don't do that anymore. A lot of the younger 250 guys coming through that are, moved on to 450s, they don't use the clutch like the old school two-stroke guys did. And Eli was always the kind of guy that uses the clutch as a control tool. So the clutch has to feel right for him, and for somebody else it may not matter because they don't use it. So he really, really likes this Yamaha engine, and he really likes the clutch. The chassis, we're working with KYB and our friend Gilmore, who they have a really close relationship with, and they're kind of on the same level and wavelength when they talk about stuff. And that communication channel is super important. When the rider says something, you need to know in a way what he's saying and how you can apply that to the bike to get it the way you want it.
Last one. So over the years, guys like JMR, you kind of had a 250 or somebody for Eli to ride with. You guys have anybody right now, or are you pretty solo up at the ranch?
We're solo right now, just because we don't really have anybody at this time. I don't necessarily look for guys, but if somebody wants to come up, sometimes we let them, or if I'm training a guy, we've had different guys in the past up there from time to time, Zach and J Mark. So it kind of just depends. And we spend the very early part of the season, Eli spent some time in Florida, and then typically in November we train at home. And then December we're froze out, so we go to SoCal, and then that leads us into the West Coast rounds, and you want to be out there anyway working with a team. So, and then we usually stay out there until mid-February to the end of February, and then we're back home in March. So, but then you're in the heat of the race season. So I like having maybe one guy with him, but once you're racing every weekend, you're kind of doing your program, trying to improve yourself. And sometimes I think the competition at training centers or whatever is possibly good during the week, but sometimes I think it can, cook the guys by the end of the season. So
Last, actually, I do have one more for you. So when I was speaking with Eli last week, I brought up the age question, mostly related to seeing Dungy back, and we were just talking about the age of comparing it to cycling. Your background is I see so many, the little bit I follow both road and mountain bike cycling, I see a lot of guys that I would say seem more in their peak around 30 to 32 to 33 in that range. After bringing that up with Eli and Ryan coming back, his comment was he feels like in this sport, it's not that you get physically fried, it's that you get mentally fried. You're one of the few people I feel like has seen a few personal experience and then seeing on both sides. Would you say that, yes, moto guys realistically are plenty competitive into the early 30s, and do you think most guys have bailed early due to just being mentally over it versus physically?
Yeah, and the schedule is just ridiculous. And, that's the promoters and the sanctioning bodies that are in control of that, and they haven't addressed it, and they don't seem to want to address it, and it sounds like they're even going to add more events in the future. So it's going to be a problem for as long as until they deal with it. So and all they're doing is pushing the stars out of the sport, and it's a big mistake.
Like even Eli's deal next year so far has been announced as Supercross only, so I'm sure some people go, oh well, that's got to be it, it's got to be over. But it could also be, in your guys' case, less races and increase the time length we may see him race.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a fair chance that he'll be, possibly next season could be his last, but if he takes the summer off and in the fall he's like, I feel good again. The problem is unless you have a very flexible team situation, a lot of times you have to commit to a contract at a certain time.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a top guy, you can't just go, oh, I might race next year. Like,
yeah, you might race and then call him back at August and go, yeah, I'd like to give this a shot.
Yeah. Unless you got a team owner that has a couple extra $1 million in his pocket, that makes it a little difficult. So.
Oh, that's all? Cool. Thank you for your time, sir.
Yeah, no worries.